Few things are as annoying as getting stuck in a traffic jam, especially at the end of a long day. Even when you do get to drive a bit more freely, there are quite a few restrictions that you always need to keep in mind. But what if there was a way for you to get behind the wheel of a supercar whenever you wanted and tear across the street, venting out all of your road rage? That is quite possible in the world of video games. And if driving at high speeds isn't enough, you can also do this. But let's say you aren't impressed by driving at high speeds. Maybe you prefer to have a nice, relaxing bike ride, or some skateboarding, or maybe something more adventurous. Or how about something that not every one of us can actually do in real life, like flying a plane? This is the world of video games, where you get to do things that you either can't or won't do in real life. All the games that you're seeing now on the screen are critically acclaimed bestsellers enjoyed by millions of players across the world. But if you are someone who is not familiar with this world, then the phrase video games might remind you of something like this.
Taking effective fire! I'm reloading!
Here's the thing. Shooter games may be among the most played games today, but they are not the only type of games enjoyed by people. For every big shooter game that becomes a hit, there are also smaller games that turn out to be surprise hits, like this. Yep, this is a real game and it is really satisfying to play. If you look at the top 5 games that have had the most sales worldwide, you'll find that 3 of those games are ones that don't primarily feature violence. The game at the top of this list, Minecraft, has sold more than 300 million copies worldwide and is more known for its creative tools rather than whatever limited, family-friendly violence it features. But it doesn't matter how much I try to convince you that not all video games are violent. It remains a fact that violent video games continue to be among the most popular games ever sold and ever played. It's similar to how big budget superhero movies might be among the highest earning movies at the box office, but they are not the only type of movies enjoyed by audiences today. The story of video games is long and quite interesting. We won't go deep into the history of video games until later in this series, but let me give you a short introduction. In 1958, an American physicist called William Higginbotham created Tennis for Two, the first true video game, as it was the first product created purely for entertainment. After this, there were a few attempts to turn video games into a legitimate business, but it was 1972's Pong that was the first true commercially successful video game. Jumping forward 50 years, today the video games industry is the largest entertainment industry in the world, surpassing the movie, TV and music industries all put together. Trying to understand video games is like peeling an onion. It has a lot of layers to unwrap, and the more time you spend with it, the more you feel like crying. However, onions can be a pretty tasty part of a meal, and so too can video games be a memorable part of our lives. Video games have brought people together by building friendships, communities, and have even saved lives by raising huge sums of money for charity. Video games have helped many people build multi-million-dollar careers, either through developing games, playing them competitively, or playing them casually on online streaming websites for a live worldwide audience. Now, of course, wherever there is money to be made, you can expect people to be greedy. That's exactly what's happening in the video game industry today, with corporations working hard day and night to figure out how to convince their customers to pay them more money while delivering fewer and fewer innovations in their products each year. It's not an exaggeration to state that a lot of people these days play video games merely out of habit rather than actively seeking out entertainment, fun, or anything else. As you may know, once a habit sticks, it can be very hard to lose, even if you know that it's bad for you. But that's not the worst of it. On the extreme side, people have lost money and even their lives because they were unable to cope with video game addiction. These are the three sides of the video game story that I wish to talk about today. If you wish to pursue video games as a hobby or a career, it's really important to understand all sides to this story because focusing on only one of them may give you a picture that's overly positive or negative. What good can come out of sitting in front of a screen and pressing some buttons? The commercial video game industry has been active for a little over 50 years if you consider the starting point to be 1972's Pong. In these 5 decades, video games have evolved from being children's toys into a genuine hobby that can be enjoyed by people of all ages. And like any good hobby, playing video games is a personalized experience. When practiced in a healthy manner, this hobby can be used to relieve stress after a tiring day at work. It can help keep your brain healthy by challenging you with puzzles to solve. It can entertain you on a long weekend at a level that you want, either with a heartfelt story told on a small scale or with an epic adventure on the scale of a blockbuster movie. It can also act as a social activity, something to do when spending time with friends or family. It's almost as if after radio, TV, and cinema, video games are the next step in the evolution of entertainment. And this evolution has given way to a staggering amount of choice. You can find games in every possible genre today. You can choose to play alone or with friends or strangers across the world. You can choose to play casually, competitively, or a mix of both. There's honestly so many types of games that it's nearly impossible to try and cover all of them in one video. Like I said earlier, wherever there is money to be made, you can expect people to be greedy. The decade between 2010 to 2019 saw the explosive rise of the mobile video game market, where simple-looking games were bringing in millions of dollars each month. And this growth didn't go unnoticed by the people making conventional console or PC games. They wanted to find new ways to make money without having to spend millions of dollars on expensive game development. A few companies showed the way. Instead of constantly trying to convince new players to buy their games, these companies would now attempt to convince existing players to fork out more money after their initial purchase. Even better, some of these games would offer the initial experience for free. This would attract more people to try the game since they are not paying any money upfront. Once they start playing, however, they are constantly given reminders to pay money for a better experience. The reason this strategy works is that once a player has invested into a game's economy by making that first purchase, they are more likely to spend more money on the game they already play and like instead of buying a different game. So what exactly are these players buying inside the game? Digital items, often called as cosmetics. These include different clothes for your character to wear, dance moves called emotes that your character can perform in the game, and various other items that don't directly influence how the game is played but slightly alter how your character looks in the game. These digital purchases are commonly called microtransactions, and collectively they represent what's bad with video games right now. I originally had a 10-minute script describing what's wrong with these microtransactions, but I saved it for another time. Besides, many people before me have tried to prove in countless videos that microtransactions are useless to the customers, but the customers simply haven't stopped buying. Business is going strong, so these cash shops continue to be stocked with new items each season. Believe it or not, losing your money isn't the worst thing that can happen while playing video games. What's worse than spending money on a bunch of digital trinkets? Something that's far more valuable than money. Time. Companies are no longer satisfied in merely selling more copies of a game than their competitors. They now also want exclusive access to their players' time. To do this, they make sure that their games are designed to encourage repetitive gameplay. It works like this: give the players a constant goal to work towards and then provide a clear path to achieve that goal. Then make sure that the path requires repeatedly playing the same content over and over again until the goal is reached. For example, most games come with what is called a Battle Pass or Season Pass. It is a collection of cosmetic rewards split into 100 or more levels. The more you play the game, the more levels you unlock and the more rewards you get. The best rewards are usually put towards the end of the pass and locked behind a paywall. So you pay money and then invest an unhealthy amount of time trying to get these items just in order to get the feeling that you have recovered your money. And guess what? By the time you hit the last level on this pass, it is almost time for a new season and a new battle pass. This process goes on, and before you realize it, this process becomes a daily habit. You set aside time for gaming every day, not because you enjoy it, but because you know the season will end soon and you still have 50 levels to unlock. So what happens when millions of people form similar habits over different sorts of games on mobiles, consoles and PCs? Enormous amounts of time is lost, never to be recovered again. Imagine turning 50 years old, looking back at the last 20 to 30 years of your life, and all you have to remember is that you worked at the day job, then came home and sat in front of a screen to farm for digital trinkets that you forgot about 3 months later. This is the scary reality that we are living in right now, where people are prioritizing earning fake currencies and items in video games rather than spending that time towards learning real-life skills or focusing on their relationships. And it's not just a few people who are doing this. There are an estimated 3 billion people playing video games all around the world. That's a huge loss of human potential. In extreme cases where some people could not handle this addiction and went into debt trying to fund their gaming habits, they unfortunately took the harsh step of ending their lives. In 2019, the World Health Organization defined this phenomenon as a gaming disorder, which is a pattern of gaming behavior where increasing priority is given to gaming over other activities to the extent that gaming takes precedence over other interests and daily activities, and continuation or escalation of gaming despite the occurrence of negative consequences. The video game industry was of course quick to object, but the fact remains that certain video games have the ability to influence how you behave in real life, and it is quite ugly to say the least. So there you have it, the 3 sides to the video game story. There are of course several more layers to each of these to explore, and that's what we'll be doing in some of the upcoming episodes. But if this is the only video in this series that you decide to watch, well, first of all, thanks for watching till the end, and second, let me reiterate what I said earlier about hobbies. Pursuing a hobby is a personalized experience. You are in control of what you do with your time and how you shape your hobby. Choose the right games, don't spend money on useless digital items, and more importantly, don't prioritize video games over real life. If you make the right choices, playing video games will be an amazing experience that will be a rich part of your life story. Thanks for watching and see you in the next episode.